I'm going to tell you something I've never said out loud. Not because I was ashamed. Not exactly. But because saying it out loud makes it real. And for a long time, I wasn't ready for it to be real. My name is Harold. Harold Eugene Calloway. I'm 87 years old, and I've been sitting in this chair for about 3 weeks now. More than I usually do. Just thinking. The doctor says my heart is tired. I think he meant it, but I've known for a while that he was tired. In other ways too. I'm not telling you this for sympathy. I don't need that. I am telling you this because there is something sitting in my chest that has been sitting there for a very long time. And I think if I don't say it now, it just goes with me. Quietly. The way most things in my life went. Quietly. I was born in a small town in western Pennsylvania, Millbrook. You wouldn't find it easily on a map. My father worked at the mill. My mother kept the house. There were 4 of us children, and we didn't talk much about feelings in that house. We talked about weather and work and whether the car needed oil. That was the language we had. I grew up believing that was enough. That doing things, fixing things, providing things, showing up, that was the same as love. That presence was the same as closeness. I believed that for a very long time. I met Catherine when I was 24. She was standing outside a hardware store in the rain, waiting for someone who wasn't coming. I offered her a ride. She looked at me for a moment like she was deciding something. Then she got in. We were married. 11 months later. For the first few years, things were good. Simple. We had a small apartment. I was working at an engineering firm. She was teaching 2nd grade. We didn't have much, but we didn't feel the absence of much either. And then somewhere around our 7th or 8th year, something began. Something I didn't have a name for at the time. I started feeling like there was a door inside me that I kept walking past. Every day. Just walking past it. Not opening it. Not even really looking at it directly. I knew somewhere that behind that door was something I had wanted before I understood what wanting was. A different kind of life. Not a dramatic one. Nothing like the movies, just quieter. More inward. I had always loved drawing. Loved the way a space could feel when you arranged it carefully. I had spent 2 years before Catherine studying architecture and then left when the money ran out, and I never went back. I told myself it didn't matter, that it was a young man's dream, that I had real responsibilities now, and he went on. We had 2 sons, Robert and Daniel. Good boy. They grew up the way boys do, fast and then gone. Robert moved to Seattle in his late 20s. Daniel settled about 40 minutes from us, which felt close until it didn't. Catherine and I settled into a life that looked from the outside like everything it was supposed to be. A house, a yard, dinners, holidays, 30, then 40, then 50 years. But there was always that door. I never opened it, not once. And here is the part that is hard to say. It was that I was unhappy with Catherine. I want to be careful here because she deserves care even now, even in her absence. She passed 4 years ago, and there is not a morning I don't feel that. But I think she knew. I think she knew in the way that people who love you always know the thing you never say. That part of me was always somewhere else. Not with another person. Just somewhere else. In a version of a life I had looked at once and then turned away from. And I think that knowing over 53 years cost her something. Cost us something. That is the thing I can't go back and fix. There was one evening, I think about it more than I probably should. We were in our mid-50s, the boys were grown, the house felt larger than it used to. Catherine and I were eating dinner and she put her fork down and she looked at me in a way she did and often look at me and she said, "Harold, is there something you always wanted that you never did? Who's like that quiet? No accusation in it." And I looked at her and I felt that door again, that old door. And I said, "No, nothing I can think of." She nodded, picked her fork back up. We finished dinner. I have thought about that moment more times than I can count. What might have happened if I had just said yes? If I had just said, "Yes, Catherine, there is something, I don't even know exactly what it is. But yes, there is something. I don't know what she would have done with that. I don't know what I would have done with it. But I think something would have shifted. Something between us. Some small, stuck thing might have finally moved. Instead, I said no. And the moment passed. The way moments do. When I was 71, my grandson, Robert's boy, Marcus, he was about 9 at the time. He found an old sketchbook of mine. From before, Catherine. Before the engineering firm. House drawings, buildings, mostly spaces. A few faces. He brought it to me and said, "Grandpa, did you draw these?" And I said, "Yes." And he looked at me with this expression that children have sometimes, this completely uncomplicated wonder. And he said, "Why did you stop?" I told him I got busy. I told him life happened. He accepted that the way children accept things, adults say, without fully believing it. But that night, I sat with that sketchbook for a long time. I turned every page. I didn't draw anything. He just looked. And I understood something that night that I had been circling for decades. It wasn't about drawing. It was never really about drawing. It was about the fact that I had known something about myself, something quiet and true, and I had decided very early that it wasn't practical enough to keep, that there wasn't room for it in a responsible life. And so I had set it down and kept walking. The thing I want to say, and I'm not sure I have the words for it exactly, is that I lived a full life. I want to be clear about that. I loved my wife. He loved my sons. I have grandchildren who visit and bring noise into this house, and I am grateful for every bit of it. But there is a difference between a full life and a whole one. I'm not sure I understood that difference until it was too late to do anything about it. There was a version of me that might have become something I never let myself become. Not famous, not extraordinary, just more completely myself. And I set that version down so early, so quietly, that by the time I looked for it again, I couldn't quite remember what it had felt like to hold it. That is what sits in my chest. Not regret, exactly. It's something older than regret. Something that doesn't have a clean name. Catherine used to sit by the window in the mornings with her coffee. Just sitting. Not reading. Not doing anything. Just sitting and looking outside. I used to find it strange. I used to think, how can she just sit there? Now I sit by that same window every morning, and I think I finally understand what she was doing. She was just being with herself, quietly, without asking anything of the moment. I spent 87 years being very busy, being useful, being present in all the ways I knew how to be present. And I wonder sometimes what my life would have felt like if I had learned earlier how to just sit with myself the way she did, without the noise of productivity, without always needing to be moving towards something. I wonder if that door would have felt less heavy. I recorded this today because Marcus is coming next weekend and I want to be sharp for him, and I do want to know how many more sharp days I have. And I thought, if I'm going to say this, I should say it now. Not for advice. I have no advice. I'm not sure I ever did. Just to say that there was a version of my life I almost chose, and I didn't, and I'm still not entirely sure why. And I've lived long enough now to stop pretending I don't wonder about it. That's all. That's the whole of it. If something in this stayed with you, if there is a door you've been walking past, I do want need you to tell me. You don't know me that, but maybe just sit with it for a little while. That's all I'd ask.